The curious story of Herb Abrams and his Universal Wrestling Federation is one that's had plenty of coverage over the years, through different YouTube retrospectives, a biography book, and a dedicated episode of Dark Side of the Ring. With Herb's more over-the-top and lax method to running the promotion, he looked to be a key player to knock out WCW and especially Vince McMahon and the WWF. However, this video is just going over one particular chapter of the entire story, and what was meant to help push the company into the next gear ultimately became a financial flop, and later on, a major nail in the UWF's coffin. While this may not be a Christmas gift that would be asked for, let's unwrap this interesting piece of wrestling history and take a closer look at the one and only pay-per-view venture of Herb Abrams, the UWF's Beach Brawl. Beach Brawl took place on June 9, 1991 at the Manatee Civic Center, now the Bradenton Area Convention Center in Palmetto, Florida, where the WWF had previously ran TV tapings at. While the venue is capable of holding 4,000 fans, the estimated attendance ended up with 550 people, but Dave Meltzer claimed in the Wrestling Observer following the event that most of the house was papered, and 70 tickets were actually sold days before the show. Let's quickly cover the taped dark match that later aired on Fury Hour between Boris Zhukov, accompanied by Mr. Red, against Paul Samson. Red takes the mic from the ring announcer as he demands the fans stand for the Russian national anthem, getting angrier when they start chanting USA. Once the bell rings, Samson avoids a few of Zhukov's attacks and rolls him up to get a 1 count and hit a running crossbody off the ropes and a body slam for more near falls. Boris goes outside for a breather while Mr. Red encourages him to fight back, with the two trading arm wringers as Samson is able to work the left arm until the Russian cheats to get out of the hold, as he then whips Paul across the ring, but runs shoulder first into the ring post when his opponent moves out of the way. Samson continues working on the shoulder before Zhukov fights out to slam and headbutt his opponent out of the ring. A few chest chops on the apron and hair pulling stop Paul briefly before he mounts a comeback but isn't able to win the match. The former AWA Tag Team Champion telegraphs a rebound attack and stops him with an elbow to the neck that sets up the lariat to the back of Samson's head and scores Boris the win before the Beach Brawl pay-per-view officially gets underway. We open with a montage of Fury Hour clips that have added explosion sounds for every move hit, because how else are you supposed to make them look even more devastating? Before going over the card for Beach Brawl, including the finals of the Eliminator Tournament to crown the SportsChannel television champion between Bam Bam Bigelow and Dr. Death Steve Williams, as both men cut brief promos on each other before going to a live shot of the, well, mostly empty Civic Center. Our host Brian Rico is joined backstage with President Herb Abrams, as Herb holds the title belt in his hands, predicting that Dr. Death will leave as the TV champion, segueing to a graphic for the women's, or rather the ladies' championship match between Candi Divine and Rockin Robin, as well as a special Beach Brawl edition of Captain Lou Albano's Captain's Corner segment for later in the evening. Heading to ringside, the announce team from Fury Hour, Craig DeGeorge and Bruno Sammartino, are ready to call the action, as we're informed that Johnny Ace will replace Don Baracco in the street fight because of The Rock just not showing up that day. An interview with Bigelow is shown, the big man being asked what may be up his sleeve for the upcoming title match.
Everybody knows that the Bam Bam Bigelow, myself, yeah, me, I have a lot of surprises. I have a lot of mobility, Joe-ability, and ho-ability. I've got it all.
This is arguably the peak of Beach Brawl, and we haven't gone to a single match on the show. But we also get an interview from Williams before finally getting to our opener nearly 10 minutes into the pay-per-view. We start off the festivities with the Blackhearts, Apocalypse and Destruction, no, really that's what they're named, accompanied by Luna Vachon, against Firecat and Jim Cooper. And it's off to a great start already when, despite the ring announcer claiming that the pair hail from
They come from your worst nightmare.
The graphic shows them from anywhere USA.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm getting cheese.
After performing their pre-match ritual, both Blackhearts hit a quick tag move before Cooper suddenly recovers to hit a neckbreaker, but gets caught off with a springboard elbow out of the corner. Apocalypse gets tagged in and uses his partner to nail a flying clothesline, as Jim swings momentum back in his corner with a body drop and a hip toss, allowing him to finally tag Firecat into the match and go for an elbow variant of the Heart Attack for the first near fall of the pay-per-view. With the Blackheart running off the ropes, Firecat nails a Hurricane Rana, followed by a kick to send him out of the ring briefly before Cooper is tagged back in. Apocalypse, or Destruction, hit a gut-wrench suplex off the middle rope and tries to go for an elbow off Brett's rope, but Jim moves out of the way to tag the cat back in, dodging a corner attack and showing off his agility with a backflip and a super kick that sends his opponent retaliating to ringside. As Craig mentions the wrestling media in attendance to cover Beach Brawl, though I have a feeling UWF may not like the eventual coverage of it, Firecat gets a near fall off a snap suplex before Destruction, or Apocalypse, hits a rebound spinning wheel kick, sending the cat off the ropes but kicks out of a reversal into a crucifix pin. The Blackhearts tag again to go for the double flying clothesline before bridging the cat for another 2 and a flying elbow. Jim tries to stop another tag move from the opposing team, but is sent back to his corner, as Firecat is still able to hold his own with a flying elbow and a DDT before Cooper finally gets back in. Bruno points out a cheap shot from the Blackhearts' corner as they then nail a double stun gun before throwing Firecat to the outside and finishing things off with a bear hug diving leg drop combo to get the victory. Luna wastes little time choking Firecat with a chain at ringside as the Blackhearts stand tall at Beach Brawl. Brian Rico gets a word with Luna and the Blackhearts, with Vachon questioning why UWF officials would dare to put 2 scrubs in the ring against Apocalypse and Destruction, demanding better competition for her tag team, as the duo's only contribution to this interview is, well,
Stutter your frickin' ears flapping!
Jim Cooper and the Firecat are certainly professional wrestlers with Luna Vachon. Let's go back to ringside.
bird noises and taunting, if you can even call it that. Up next is a street fight where, according to the ring announcer, there are no rules, keep this in mind, as the substituted Johnny Ace takes on Bat Street USA resident Terry Gordy. A tie-up in the corner leads to Gordy and Ace trading reversals before Johnny gains the advantage with a shoulder block and a grounded headlock. After being told to let go of a hold in the corner during this street fight, Terry gets knocked down with a springboard crossbody, but kicks out and punches Johnny down to the mat. The former Freebird clotheslines the future Raw and SmackDown GM in the corner, only to get a near fall, but he keeps the offense going against Ace, with Johnny getting in a few shots before he's sent crashing down with a Saito suplex for another 2. After a failed attempt, Gordy is able to powerbomb the dynamic dude, but Johnny stops his attacks on the turnbuckle and starts his comeback, ending with drop-kicking Gordy to ringside and attempting a dive, but hits the arena floor more than he does Terry Gordy. Gordy drags Ace up the stairs of the Civic Center, the fans in Section 16 getting a close-up view of the action as both men continue brawling when...
It's very close.
That's it! That's it!
Uh-oh, the bell rang.
That
Oh, wait
is
a minute,
it.
there's no disqualification here, is there? Let's see what the referee calls here.
A different interpretation of the street rules.
On the count of 10 has counted out both wrestlers.
Oh, so there was a count.
both Ace and Gordy get counted out in a street fight as the two keep going at it for the next several minutes while Craig and Bruno try to make some sense of the finish. This was, unfortunately, a common occurrence with Herb Abrams' booking in the UWF, often having DQs or countouts so that none of the veterans would actually take the loss. We carry on with our next tag team bout at Beach Brawl, pitting David and Larry, the Power Twins, versus the former Killer Bees, B. Brian Blair and Jim Brunzell, now going by Mass Confusion. How is it this far in the show I only just noticed them piping in crowd noise?
Larry and
Let
Dave
me take care of this.
showing no respect here, Bruno. They're throwing their clothes at us. What are fly swatters also?
Anyhow, as the Power Twins toss their entrance gear at Craig and Bruno, one of the twins show off his strength against Brunzell, with the other twin getting in a sneak attack when Jim is sent towards the ropes. The not-quite Mega Powers attack him in their corner, with Jumping Jim finding a gap to escape under them to tag in Brian Blair, as the B-Man is able to stay one step ahead of David, or Larry? Even catapulting one brother towards the other on the apron. After the Powers quickly recover outside, Beat Brian takes the advantage and targets the left leg before Brunzell comes in to lock in a hold on the other limb. Larry, or David, continues to be on the receiving end of the Bees' offense, his left leg being worked on as he reaches out to tag his brother in, but Brunzell and Blair take turns keeping their opponent grounded. After a lengthy period, the half-brother finally gets to fight back and tag in the other half to nail the double clothesline, before Blair is locked in a bear hug and sent back to the opposite corner. David, or screw it, I'm not bothering to keep track anymore, and his brother trade tags before one hits a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker off the ropes, as more tags are exchanged when Brunzell tries to help his partner out, while the illegal brother chokes Brian on the ropes behind the referee's back. The future NWC Tag Team Champions distract the referee from seeing Brunzell's tag, continuing their assault on the opposite side of the ring. Beat Brian ducks under a clothesline, but is halted from getting the tag out when he and his partner are tossed to the floor. The Power Twins make a crucial mistake by appealing to the crowd, as Jim and Brian both don a mask to throw their opponents off, with one of them quickly going on the attack against both Powers. The masked Bee attempts a sunset flip, only for the other to slide in when the ref gets distracted to complete the move and score the 3 count. As Brunzell and B. Blair were able to use the Power Twins' own game plan against them. It's now time for the first of 2 champions to be crowned, as Candi Divine takes on Rockin' Robin, and for whatever reason, Herb Abrams narrates over both women's entrances.
And coming down the aisle, one of the 2 top contenders for the Ladies' Championship belt. From Nashville, Tennessee, the very lovely, sexy, vivacious, and talented Candi Divine now entering the ring. And headed down the ring is the very vivacious Rockin' Robin, hailing from Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Both competitors start with a handshake, but Divine doesn't hold to the code of honor when attacking Robin and gaining the advantage with a clothesline and body drop off the ropes. Robin is able to reverse a running corner attack and knock Divine down for a near fall. Rockin continues to dominate by applying a front face lock, as Lady Divine is able to escape but has to kick out after being rolled up into a sunset flip out of the corner, proceeding to catapult Robin before putting her into the Boston Crab. Candi dropkicks and sends her opponent's face into the turnbuckle, but can't do it on the opposite side when Robin reverses the attack and follow up with some chops on the ropes and a clothesline, but doesn't end the match just yet. A possible botch from Rockin helps Candi regain control briefly, before Robin dodges another clothesline to hit one of her own, and avoid one final corner attack to roll up Divine and become the UWF Ladies Champion. As Divine is furious over the sudden loss, voiceover Abrams returns to describe the look of the title belt and the replay of the finish, while Robin continues celebrating with the fans in Palmetto. Now over halfway done with Beach Brawl, we still have plenty to get to, as the strap match between Colonel DeBeers and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff is up next. We go back to the fall when DeBeers had issues with UWF ref Larry Samson officiating his matches because, well...
With the referee.
He's a black man! What?
Sure will listen.
Larry would get shoved and kicked down by the Colonel during a match several weeks later on Fury Hour, disqualifying him and getting ambushed for it after the bell. Jumping ahead to May of '91, DeBeers would grab another referee's belt and use to attack his opponent's Soul Train. Look, I'm not taking any enjoyment in having to recap an angle like this, but I'm just here to describe the footage that they're showing for the sake of understanding the heat in this match. It also doesn't help that during the show's opening montage, they show DeBeers was to be accompanied by Mr. Black, but said manager doesn't appear at all on this show. Herb returns again to commentate over Paul Orndorff's entrance, as Colonel tries to get in a cheap shot, but is quickly foiled before the match starts after the referee throws the strap into the air for DeBeers to catch and start going to town with lashing Mr. Wonderful's back. Orndorff tries to fight back, but is unable to stop the Polish Prince from using the strap to lay some shots in the corner. But Paul is finally able to avoid a running attack on the opposite side and return the favor to DeBeers with the strap, as the Florida-born superstar chokes his opponent out and land a fist drop before the Colonel reverses and body slams Orndorff. DeBeers searches for the strap, not realizing his opponent still has a hold of it, as he attempts a top rope dive, only to get cut off by Wonderful and the strap. While Bruno protests DeBeers using boots that aren't fit for wrestling matches, Orndorff avoids a rebound attack to nail the piledriver and get the win. Mr. Wonderful then grabs an American flag from the crowd and waves it in front of the fans, unaware of Colonel DeBeers grabbing a stun gun from his bag and laying out Orndorff before grabbing the flag when exiting the ring, as Paul is eventually able to leave on his own power. So how do you follow all the chaos of what we just saw? You bring out Captain Lou Albano for a live edition of Captain Lou's Corner. Lou introduces his guests, Luna and the Blackhearts, as Albano makes quite the comments about Vachon.
Is this a sicko? I mean, is this lady sick? Look at that disgusting reptile she has around her neck. Get away from me, girl. Get away from me, girl. Stay away from me with that hair from your forehead, bang on the back of your neck. You're talking about, stand over there, get away from me, I will interview her. Now
The captain makes it clear how much he doesn't like Apocalypse and Destruction for their satanic behavior before quickly leaving the ring, not wanting to be anywhere near the Blackhearts or Luna Snake. What was even the point of this? We carry on with the Legends match of the show, as Mr. Red appears again alongside Ivan Koloff as he takes on former and future WWF champion Bob Backlund, with this being Backlund's
All-American, the People's Champion, Bob Backlund, making a return to professional wrestling. What a coup for the Universal Wrestling Federation, bringing back the People's Champion, the undefeated one, Bob Backlund.
Yeah, thanks, Herb. Fucking hell. Both men trade holds in the early going, onto the mat and into the ropes before Koloff starts targeting Mr. Backlund's left arm. Ivan then sends Bob chest first into the turnbuckle before applying more pressure onto the arm. Backlund is able to roll over and lift Koloff off the mat to place him on the top rope before slapping the Russian bear, backdropping him, and after avoiding a collision in the corner, rolling him up and getting his first victory in years in under 2 minutes and 30 seconds. He then leaves to greet the younger fans in the crowd when Captain Lou comes back into the ring to punch and deep pants Mr. Red. Just why? Over the past several months on Fury Hour, Steve Ray and Sonny Beach have gotten into matches turned chaotic brawls with Bob Orton, Cactus Jack, and manager John Tolos, leading to another encounter between Wet n Wild versus the Cowboy and one of the faces of Foley here at Beach Brawl, with the Golden Greek being locked up in a shark cage suspended over ringside. After Ray and Beach force Tolos into the cage, Foley and Sonny have a back and forth exchange where Beach ends up outside and double teamed by the future WWE Hall of Famers, ending with Cactus hitting his elbow from the middle rope to the floor. Ace tags in to knock Beach down and land an elbow before stomping him as John Tolos continues blowing his whistle above the ring. Jack tags back in to throw some punches and get a 2 off a Russian leg sweep. Sonny finally slams Cactus to allow Steve Ray to go after Foley and Orton, but a quick series of reversals lead to a referee bump and everyone brawling in the ring. Bob signals Tolos to toss Brass Knuckles from the cage, but ends up hitting his partner after Steve dodges. A dropkick sends Cowboy to the outside, and the face of the UWF signature cookies gets the victory for him and Sonny Beach. But the alliance of Cactus and Orton falls apart when both guys go after each other and brawl towards the curtain. How is it that this ended up as more of a street fight than the actual one we had earlier? Before we get to our main event, DeGeorge and Sammartino make their final predictions for the TV Championship match, as highlights are shown of Bam Bam and Dr. Death advancing in the Eliminator Tournament, while being held back from fighting each other on Fury Hour. But now they finally get their hands on each other for the final match on Beach Brawl, as Bigelow and Williams face off to become the inaugural Sports Channel television champion. Herb Abrams makes his way to the ring while carrying the belt, and looks to shake both competitors' hands, but Bigelow doesn't accept the gesture, pushing Herb away before Dr. Death runs towards him to start our main event. The future WrestleMania main eventer stays on offense with some punches and a splash in the corner, busting Williams open before Bigelow gets turned inside out with a clothesline from Dr. Death. The former champion of the original UWF uses his right knee to keep Bigelow down and throws some rights and knife-edge chops, now busting Bam Bam open to even the playing field. Bigelow kicks out of a small package attempt as Steve stops a corner running attack, but the future Jersey Triad member sends him crashing down with a Samoan drop for a near fall. He then slams Williams down and slingshots himself from the apron back onto Steve to get another 2. The Beast from the East DDTs his opponent and lands the top rope splash, but Steve Williams continues to fight, managing to dodge another clothesline and negotiate a belly-to-belly suplex for his own near fall. Dr. Death fires himself up and hits a lariat, some Oklahoma stampedes, and a power slam, but can't put Crusher down just yet. Williams attempts another power slam when Bam Bam grabs the top rope to stop him, only to Irish whip Bigelow across the ring and hit one more finisher for the 3 count and win the championship. After Herb enters the ring to hand Steve the TV title belt, he asks what Dr. Death has to say to the fans in Palmetto.
Great! I'm feeling fabulous! I'll tell you one thing, Bam Bam Bigelow, you're a hell of an athlete. You're getting a hell of a fight out here. But I'll tell you what,
Abrams endorses his champion's comments, allowing him to face off against any challenger from any promotion, as we go to one final backstage interview with the SportsChannel champion, repeating his promise to take on any and all competition before going to see another doctor and celebrate with his family. As we end on a recap of the card results for what would end up being the only Beach Brawl event from Herb Abrams' Universal Wrestling Federation. Beach Brawl would not end up as the success that Abrams was betting on, due to several cable providers not gaining enough interest in the show to carry it for many potential viewers. It ended up with a 0.1 buy rate, or 18,000 purchases on pay-per-view. And in the aftermath of the event, bills were due and checks bounced for the UWF's talent, all the while stress and pressure would get to Herb, him leaning more into his personal habits that certainly resembled snow and angels of some kind. Ultimately, in the scale of worst wrestling pay-per-views of all time with the likes of Heroes of Wrestling or particular WWE and TNA events, Beach Brawl isn't near that category of truly terrible showings. Yes, the pacing and the booking for most of the card was questionable and dumbfounding, but I personally felt there were some bright spots throughout, such as the tag matches, the women's title match, and the main event between Bigelow and Dr. Death. My biggest issue with Beach Brawl was that it felt like a glorified Fury Hour episode that wasn't on the level of being on pay-per-view, and while there are certain things that could have been changed to help improve the show, it likely wouldn't have changed the outcome and how much it affected Herb Abrams and the UWF in the long run. And to think, this was just a small piece of the entire story that was Herb and his journey within the wrestling business. While there's plenty more to discuss about him and the promotion over the next several years, including the final Hail Mary that was the Blackjack Brawl event, one thing you can't take away from Abrams was how determined and passionate he was to get his dream onto a big stage, while providing another platform for up-and-coming performers and bringing in big names to help solidify the company. But for a variety of reasons, both professionally and personally, Herb never got his chance to become a key player in the industry. And despite the rollercoaster life he lived, Herb Abrams was able to leave behind a legacy and an impact on wrestling that, to those who remember it fondly, will never be forgotten.